Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Josh and you're watching Our History. Today we're going over the life of paramount Xhosa chief Sarili kaHintsa. So if you enjoy this, please be sure to like. And if you're new here, consider smashing the subscribe button. If this isn't your first rodeo and you haven't shown some love to the subscribe, now is your opportunity. Thank you for watching. Sarili kaHintsa. King Sarili, who lived from about 1810 to 1892, was the king of the Xhosa nation from 1835 until his death in 1892 in Sholora, Bomvanaland. He was also known as Kreli and led the Xhosa armies in a series of frontier wars. Earlier life and family. Sarili, the eldest son of Great Culling and Nomsa Kakambushe Chezi, had 9 wives. Among them were Nohute, Nondwe of the Amatembu, and Bayu of the Amagwali. Unfortunately, Sarili's first heir passed away at the young age of 12 in 1853. The next in line was his son Sidgwau kaSarili, born to his second wife Nohute. Sarili's daughters also made notable marriages. Novili Nomkafulo wed Ngangelizwe Kea, the 6th paramount chief of the Amatembu, while Noesile married Chief Falo Ngudlwa of the Amajuba Tembu, becoming the adoptive mother to renowned Tembu poet Mbombini Molteno Sihele. Sarili's other daughters married prominent figures such as Mohontlo of the Mpondomise and Chief Kwadiso of the Konjwayo. Reign from 1835 to 1892. Sarili ascended to his birthright as the king of the Xhosa land without any dispute. However, his initial reign was challenging as King Hintsa's power had been significantly controlled by the Great Councillors. Sarili struggled to establish his authority independently. In his attempts to assert his dominance, he first engaged in unsuccessful battles with the Soto. He then aimed to conquer the Upper K region, which was already occupied by another Xhosa state, the Tembu, led by Mtirara. Unfortunately, Sarili faced defeat and had to retreat. Nevertheless, in July 1843, Sarili, supported by the official army of the Xhosa kingdom, managed to capture Tembuland. As a result, he established his great place at Hohita, the capital of Xhosaland. Sarili, during his reign, engaged in intermittent conflict with the Cape Colony, which was expanding its territories. Despite this, he was admired and respected as a skilled diplomat by the prominent whites in the Cape, who knew him well. Sarili's main goal was to maintain Kaleka independence without direct confrontation with the Cape. Initially, this strategy worked, but as a nationalist and paramount chief of all the Xhosa, he became involved in conflict with the Cape due to the actions of the neighboring Great Culling. When Sarili's kingdom provided indirect assistance to the Ngqika during the 7th and 8th frontier wars, the British discovered it, leading to a temporary invasion of Kaleka land. The Great Culling, 1856 to 1858, and the aftermath. Sarili played a significant role in the Great Cattle Killing, a millennialist movement that emerged among the Xhosa people in 1856. He sincerely believed in the prophecy of Nongawuse and claimed that by destroying their own cattle and crops, salvation would be brought by supernatural spirits who would drive all white people into the sea. Sarili's actions influenced many of his followers to follow suit, resulting in a devastating famine that affected the last Xhosa kingdom. This forced the Xhosa people to seek aid from the neighboring Cape Colony. Due to his involvement in the cattle killing, Sarili was widely detested by the white community, and he was temporarily exiled from Kaleka land. During his absence, the Fengu people, traditional rivals of the Kaleka, settled in much of his former territory. The Fengu Kaleka War, 1877 to 1879. In terms of policies, there were notable differences between the Cape Colony and the British government in London regarding their approach to Sarili. The Cape Colony, having achieved responsible government in 1872, showed little interest in annexing Xhosa land. Instead, they pursued a diplomatic path by signing treaties with Sarili and his enemies, including the Tembu, which recognized the territorial integrity of Kaleka land. On the contrary, the British government aimed to provide protection to an increasing number of Transkeian chiefdoms, thereby isolating Sarili and reducing his influence in the region. Both parties seemed to favor Sarili's adversaries in trade and other relations with the Transkei territories. When conflict erupted between Sarili and the neighboring Tembu, the British government intervened again, extending their protection to yet another opponent of Sarili's. From the mid-1870s, a series of severe droughts affected the Transkei region, disrupting the relative peace that had been maintained in previous decades. The droughts initially began in Sarili's territory in 1875. and gradually spread to other parts of the Transkei, Basutoland, and the Cape Colony-controlled Ciskei. Over time, the severity of the droughts increased, reaching their peak in 1877. As a result, ethnic tensions escalated, particularly between the Mfengu, Tembu, and Kaleka Xhosa communities. In 1877, a conflict erupted between the Mfengu and Kaleka tribes in South Africa during a festival. This dispute quickly escalated to a violent shootout and eventually turned into a full-scale intertribal war that spread across the frontier. Sarili, the leader of the Kaleka tribe, initially sought to avoid further escalations due to the Mfengu's alliance with the Cape Colony, which possessed superior military forces. However, pressures from his councillors, chiefs, and decades of strained relations with the Cape Colony compelled Sarili to mobilize his armies. The situation took a more serious turn when the British government, led by Sir Henry Bartle Frere, decided to annex Kalekaland for their confederation plans in South Africa. Sarili undertook a crucial mission to unite the various Xhosa tribes into a formidable force. His objective was to halt the annexation efforts that threatened their autonomy. Despite his efforts, Sarili faced immense setbacks in the form of 2 harrowing pitched battles, which ultimately compelled him to abandon his resistance. Consequently, he chose a life of exile for himself. Initially, he sought refuge in Pondoland and later relocated to Bomvanaland. Tragically, Sarili's life came to an end in 1892 while still in exile, specifically in Sholora, Bomvanaland. If you enjoy this channel and you would like to support more content like this, because all contributions are greatly appreciated, please check out the Patreon link in the description below.